I welcome all. I welcome all the people over here, all the guests. Today, very select, lot of people whom we have called for the second UMPP Supercritical Seminar of Inertia. 2010, we did the first ones. And the second title you see is Math Power, which is on the manufacturing for the power sector, especially the thermal. And we are discussing today the thermal power sector and coal-related issues. We have a very strong and eminent panel. May I request Shri R.K. Sachdev, President, Coal Preparation Society of India and former advisor of coal to the Government of India to come over. Shri Sachdev, please give a big hand. May I also request we have T.C. Arora ji over here, former director of Toshiba. Please come over, please give him a big hand. May I request my colleague, friend, Shri Ashwini Dhar to please come over. Ashwini Dhar has handled the image of BHL for 2 decades plus. May I request Shri S. Gopalakrishnan, who is here with us. I think Ashwini Dhar has described him as the encyclopedia of the power industry, and we are having him today with us. He is the executive director at BHEL for the power sector marketing. May I also request Mr. Riten M. Khosla, Colonel Riten Khosla, please. Colonel Khosla is with Patel Engineering Limited, one of the companies that have always supported Inertia. Anybody missed out? I can't see. Okay, Mr. Vishwanathan. Mr. K. Vishwanathan, he is the head of engineering PC boilers for ISJEC Heavy Engineering Limited. May I have Mr. Vishwanathan, please? We don't have Mr. Rajesh Srivastava, I believe, here. Yeah, he's missing. Okay. Any other? Yeah, he's missing. So I hope he joins us. Welcome you all once again. And may I request I will just trouble you a little bit for lighting of the lamp. We must begin everything on an auspicious note. And today's discussion, I request, starting with Sri R.K. Sachdev, the senior most person, and Mr. T.C. Arora, to kindly, and along with Mr. Gopalakrishnan, to please lead this today. Please give them a big hand. I also request Dhar and everybody to join. Srivastava, please come over. So, welcome once again to this excellent panel for today's discussion. And today we have the the complete time to discuss, and we are discussing this exactly on the backdrop. There are two events, on 27th of, I would say, August, 27th of August, I believe, we had an event, 27th of July, we had an event called Smart Grid, which is called Grid Smart, and on 30th, we had a deadly failure of the grid, right? It was in this hall, I believe, and we said we need a smart grid. And I think some people who are here must have attended, like Mr. Talpatra was here, right? And exactly happened the same way. 31st, it was even more deadlier, when for 15 hours the country was sent to the blackout, and we had a terrible affair with that, and the whole issue has come to a situation that the country needs its connection of the first southern grid with the rest of the country. Now I think we saw an advertisement on Sunday from the Power Grid chairman saying they are going to do it by 2014. So we have woken up now, right? So this was the same forum, the same place from where that action happened. And I believe now today some action will happen after we talk here, because yesterday there was a good result. We have written, the magazine that you have clearly writes, and we have taken a stand. And in fact, I wrote personally, first time, to some 20 MPs. Of course, we used to write to the Prime Minister, we used to write to people like Dr. Krishnamurthy's office, but this time it was PMO, it was Gandhiji, it was Rahul Gandhi. Everybody has been faxed from my office, literally, that version of that article, which went to each one of them, and we have taken a stand. And Supreme Court yesterday has taken the stand that coal and other natural resources need not be auctioned. Auction is not the only route anyway, even for telecom. So I think we have come to a standpoint where we can go further to this discussion, and we can see that natural resources for a poor country like India should be actually used in some other way. Like there could be a cost plus method. But we can have a question. The courts made a right point. They said it must be for public good. So definition of public good will come into picture. So for some people, public good would be, okay, when we earn more money is public good. Then I think we will not get any water anymore. We have to buy through this bottle process. Everything will be auctioned. So I don't agree to that, and I don't think any Indian would agree to that. And globally also, we have not seen resources like coal getting auctioned. It is on a cost plus basis, a marginal cost plus use, lease, etc. And those formulas and those methods have to be devised, must be transparent to have more for the power sector. With this, I think before we start today's discussion, I just thought we will have a small view on a program we sent. We sent 5 episodes on Zee Business, and the first one was on coal, where we had an eminent panel also, and this was middle of last year, middle of this year, when we sent this program on Zee. And I think it gives a background of that stage and what we discussed, and what were the, in principle, I would say, concerns of that panel as well, and then we'll continue the discussion. May I request the video to be started and the lights to be put off a little bit. Inertia, Asia's premier journal on sustainable energy and power, and REPA, Renewable Energy Promotion Association, jointly present Professor Iyer's talk show, Future of Energy, India Vision 2022, India's first talk show on energy and power. Co-partners, MTU On-Site Energy and BS Group Sugan Automatics. Associate partner, BHEL. Supported by Jindal Power Limited and Patel Engineering Limited. Segment partners, Green Brilliance Energy. Media research, Falcon Strategic Advisories India and Green Infra Partners. A Falcon Media production exclusively on Zee Business. Welcome to the talk show, The Future of Energy, India Vision 2022. This is the Inertia show for you on Zee Business. And today we have some of the most powerful personality for this episode, which is Future of Clean Coal and Efficient Technology. On my left is none other than Anil Rajdar, the former Secretary Power, Government of India, who has brought about reforms in the power sector and has been responsible for furthering the power sector in India. So thank you and welcome, sir, for coming here. And we have on my left Sri D.K. Jain, the Director Technical of NTPC, India's leading power company, almost supplying 65 to 70% of the national power requirements. We have on my right Sri K. Ravi Kumar, and he needs no introduction. He has been a man who brought BHEL up And BHL today is at its position because of the excellent effort Shri Ravi Kumar did as the chairman and managing director of BHL, and today he's also the managing director of the private sector company, Abhijit Group. We have on our right Rajesh Agarwal. Mr. Rajesh Agarwal is the chairman and managing director of the BS Group. BS Group is into state-of-the-art technologies related to both smart grid and efficient coal and efficient utilization of energy and also renewables. On our left, Mr. T.C. Arora, who was the director of Toshiba India, was responsible for the growth of Toshiba in India for several years, and he is today the managing director of Visa Ecotech Limited, which is into solar energy and successfully implementing solar projects in the country. On my extreme right is R.K. Srivastava. He's also another doyen in the industry who has brought up Kirloskar Brothers Limited in a big way. And welcome, Srivastava Saab. Welcome all of you to this show. To begin with, let me fire the first salvo. That the figures show us that today India has 182 gigawatt of power, of which predominantly 65% of that energy comes from the thermal power sector and mainly driven by coal. So let me put this question to Anil Rajan Saab. Do we see coal remaining the mainstay, and does it remain, and for how long?
Well, I think India has a set of challenges as well as compulsions in the power sector. We've got to take power, that is electricity, to every home. We've got to create employment opportunities. We've got to increase farm output through taking out groundwater and generally improve the quality of life. But the compulsion is that we have to use coal. We are short on natural gas. We've not been able to develop our hydro potential to the full limits, and most of our hydro potential in any case is lying in very sensitive ecozones now. We are moving fast on wind and solar, but these have their compulsions at the moment in view of the cost that is involved in generating them. We've got to provide access as well as affordability to power, which means that coal and clean coal will have a major role to play for some years, at least 2-3 decades to come.
Okay, now Mr. Ravi Kumar, may I know from you, sir, how the future technologies like ultra mega supercritical power, especially the supercritical technologies and the ultra supercritical technology, what is the role these have in enhancing our capacity?
You know that the coal present cost cannot be taken as the benchmark. Actually, the coal is going to cost more and more, and availability is also being in question. So definitely there is a necessity to improve the heat rate so that you can get for the same amount of coal, that is coal to wire, if you see, you get more output at the terminal rather than for the same coal input. Of course, material technology is the one that we used 1 chrome 1 moly material for 600, and for 700 degree higher material has to be used. I think research is going on throughout the world for improving the heat rate as much as possible.
So sir, therein comes the question, when we have this discussion of heat rate, what has happened, and we have seen in the last 1 year, and I want to bring this debate here, that we have seen that all this discussion on heat rate, while it exists, we have seen a huge amount of Chinese capacity coming to India, and there is a kind of a situation where in this current plant, we have roughly 40 gigawatt worth of orders already placed on Chinese manufacturers. I would ask D.K. Jain Saab to throw some light on this kind of situation and the threat. Are the Indian companies geared to compete here, and is a major leader like NTPC going to expand in a competitive environment with, I would say, other technologies?
When we come to discuss the infusion of Chinese technology in India, you have to really look at what are the strengths of the Chinese equipment or the Chinese suppliers. If you look at, one is the pricing, they are cheaper. Second is, they do have some advantage in terms of the faster execution of the project. But are they really suitable for Indian coal, Indian operating and maintenance conditions? Those are the issues which people have not been able to answer yet, because it's been just a few years that the Chinese equipment have been installed. But yes, they have to find solutions if Chinese equipment has to sustain in India. But in NTPC, what we have done is, we have never really forbidden any Chinese equipment manufacturers to quote. We have our own performance standards specified, our own specifications with respect to the maintenance requirements, with respect to the performance levels which have to be achieved, with respect to the quality of equipment which has to be supplied. And somehow they have not really participated in NTPC tenders because of that. I would suggest that we have to have good performance standards, keeping in view the performance levels we require in India, the maintenance requirements and the coal we have in India. With that, if we are able to enforce those requirements, I'm sure the Chinese will have to really modify their designs to suit Indian conditions. Otherwise, I don't see any problem. As it is, 5 different manufacturers have set shop in India. With that, the prices have started improving already.
Right. With that, we take a break on this section, and on the other side, we'll again further this discussion on the fundamental issues of the threat of, I would say, the Chinese and other manufacturers, because basically we need to bring the cost of equipment down and at the same time provide quality to the country. Just after this shot. Welcome back after the break, and let us take the questions further. So in this scenario, I would again push that question off to Mr. T. Sarona, who had been heading Toshiba in the past. What's the scene? It looks a little scary. Scary that we have so much of orders already placed, and in this plant, almost like there is not much order placed on, let's say, an Indian private sector part.
See, when we planned our expansion, we thought about large plants, we thought about ultra mega, we thought about bulk orders. We invited foreign investors to put up their shops here. I fully support what Mr. Jain just said, that if they follow the norms, qualification, performance standards, we are not stopping them. But if you see the results, most of the projects which the Chinese have taken, they've gone to the private sectors who have compromised on the qualification and specification standards, which NTPC did not. The second thing I would say that while many manufacturers were not putting up the shops here, there were domestic price preference given to the BHEL. Why can't we give the same thing to Indian manufacturers who put up the shops here?
And just get Razdan Saab's view on this issue, that why not the same type of pricing advantage be extended to Indian manufacturers or players in the private sector, sir?
See, Professor, I am somehow very clear in my mind that we had to scale up the 11th plan capacity addition program. We had a very good manufacturer, BHEL, but we needed somebody else to compete with them also. The best can only do better if they have competition. That was one aspect. The other is, well, yes, today we have 5 or 6 players, thanks to that policy, who come on the scene, and they're up with the world-class equipment probably in India and supercritical technology. But there was going to be a time gap between the time they set up shop and by the time BHEL expands, which was going to be the 11th plan. So we needed in this plan at least a technology supplier to meet this demand. And I can share with you today, now post-Durban, that I had a fear utmost in my mind that at some stage, particularly if our economy goes a little slow, we'll have pressures from these Western economies asking India to shut shop on coal-fired stations. We may have a window only of 5, 10, 15 years at the most to build as much as we can. Yes. So we've got to provide electricity to our people. Yes, but now that the capacities are coming up, we must do everything to protect and give preference to the domestic manufacturers.
I will first go to Sri R.K. Srivastava. It's an interesting case because in the balance of plant, we have seen that Indian company has excelled, other not only BHEL, but I would like to say that here is Kirloskar Brothers. So let me know from Srivastava Saab, how Kirloskar Brothers, almost all the ultra mega projects, I believe that all the major pumping applications and orders have been placed on you in spite of severe competition from Chinese.
The first thing is, as Mr. Jain has told correctly, the performance wise we are much better. I see in circulating water pumps, large pumps, the efficiency difference is there 8 to 10 point. Now 8 to 10 point difference is very high, and conservation of energy also very important when you are generating power. Whatever power you save, that is equivalent to what you generate. So I think that is very important. One thing on performance. Another thing is we are here to give continuous service to all plants because we are having a local presence. So operation and maintenance services we can give much better. Now today as a Indian manufacturers, we have on a very clearly got prepared, not only supercritical but ultra supercritical. So we are, earlier we were doing maximum of 500 megawatts. Now today we are prepared to do in nuclear as well as in thermal up to 1000 megawatt.
May I ask Mr. Rajesh Agarwal here that how does clean, efficient coal-related technology play a role in ensuring efficient generation of power?
So currently, if you see, the Indian market is predominantly dependent on coal to generate power. Most 65% of the power generation is happening through coal. If you see, all the mining which is being done in India is mostly surface mining and open cast mining. We need to bring in new technologies to improve the productivity of the mining. India having a huge resources of 255 billion. If you see, if we do the way surface mining is being done, we can't take more than 40 to 50% of the coal. We need to work on long-wall mining capabilities to improve the productivity of the mining. Then there are countries like Czech Republic, countries like Russia who has worked on various technology on the coal side. So we need to work with technology partners and bring in efficient technology which can help improve the coal level. So like currently, if you see, India uses only 20% of the washed coal. Balance is all used directly. India has a huge high ash coal currently. So we need to bring in more washing technology, and before it is being used, we should ensure that the coal is being washed so that the consumption is reduced and the carbon emission is again reduced drastically. India really need to proactively work on the technology side, one way by bringing in ultra mega generation capabilities which will reduce the consumption of coal. On the other hand, bringing in mining technologies and also clean tech technologies to reduce the consumption.
May I start with Mr. Anil Razan on the issue of the Chinese threat that we have seen. You know, we have seen that supercritical equipment, they need a certain heat rate, and the heat rates have been guaranteed on paper, but we see that performance of some of those plants are already faltering. What is your view, sir, on this issue?
Well, I'm sure those who have bought those plants have obviously gone, number one, on least cost alternatives, but it is imperative that they ask for performance also, and they would have got some guarantees from the suppliers. And I think the Chinese also would not be interested only in one-time supplies, but I think in the times to come, and that was part of my strategy also, we want to create India as the hub for supercritical technology. And our people would be giving Chinese a good run for their money, as it is the local manufacturers have the advantage of good maintenance. I think the Chinese would have to provide all the services per se. Now they just can't supply and run away.
एक छोटा सा ब्रेक लेते हैं, इस वक्त आपके पास फिर आ रहे हैं हम लेके फ्यूचर ऑफ एनर्जी इंडिया विजन 2022। नमस्कार, हम फिर वापस आए हैं। तो जैन साहब, आपको क्या लगता है कि ये जो सबक्रिटिकल कैपेसिटीज में जो ये पीएलएफ की बातें हो रही हैं, क्या ये अभी हम हमारे को कहीं ले जाएंगी कि हम इस तरह के प्लांट यहाँ आए और कुछ बेंचमार्क हम गलत वाले डाल दें कि एनटीपीसी के प्लांट तो 95% पे चल रहे हैं, 96% पे चल रहे हैं, और ये 65% वाले प्लांट भी यहाँ चलेंगे?
देखो, चाइनीज प्लांट्स, यस, आई हैव आल्सो हर्ड कि चाइना में 60-65% पे ही चलते हैं। जिन लोगों ने खरीदे हैं उन लोगों ने, आई विश एंड होप they would have checked the maintainability, life of the equipment, mean time between failure of the different equipment components, so that it really works at higher plant load factors demanded in Indian conditions. In NTPC, we specify our requirements very clearly with respect to the life of the plant, with respect to the annual plant load factors expected, with respect to the life of the different components of the equipment, so that we do not have to increase our maintenance cost as such. With Chinese equipment, I hope they would have checked that, and they'll ensure that the maintenance cost does not increase, because they have to look at the lifetime cost of the plant also, which is very, very important.
I would like to take this catch off to Ravi Kumarji, because you've seen both the private sector and public sector. Here the Chinese are able to even fund and finance extra commercial borrowings at low rates. And the second challenge that is coming is direct reduction of costs on the capital equipment, which is suiting our low tariff based, I would say, bidding, where the ultra mega biddings we have seen is based on the lowest tariff. Tariff, the capex is basically bringing the tariff down. And this may not be the real scene because the performance of those power plants are not known for the next 20 years, 25 years. So what is your view, sir, on such purchases?
No, actually, there are two things which is naturally helping the indigenous industry. One is the devaluation of the rupee. Actually, rupee was about 45 rupees, it is about 53 rupees right now. So there is an advantage definitely to indigenous manufacturers who are putting in domestic manufacturing. And secondly, the government is also thinking of putting a custom duty on the imported equipments. So definitely these things will protect the domestic industry. If you see, the pricing is lower. Basically, they give standard equipments, whereas in India, every project is designed as per the site conditions. Ultimately, it should have, as Professor Iyer has told, it must have a good efficiency, and also it should operate for longer years. So that will only stand in the long term. So I think the domestic manufacturers, if they concentrate on quality and cycle time reduction, they can have an edge over Chinese manufacturers in near term.
I would just like to ask a question to Mr. Ravi Kumar. After all, what is this Chinese equipment? Isn't it based on, again, imported technologies? It's not indigenous Chinese technology, is it?
No, it is imported technology only. But when we specify the initial set of supercritical sets, if you see, they have a heat rate of 1900 kilocalorie per kg, which is equivalent to subcritical of BHEL or other European manufacturers.
We have still not addressed one subject, and that is the low cost financing in the power sector. I would like to put this question across to Rajesh Agarwal. We have a situation that the Chinese are bringing the funds and flushing it at 5.5%, even lower, 3 or 3.5%. And these are all ECBs, and there is a cap even on ECB within the India market. So how do you think that investors or owners of, or I would say developers in the future would perform in such a situation? Would you still select a Chinese player who offers both finance and this, or would you look at better technology and go for the best things that is available?
So if you see currently the power sector has a huge requirement for funding. There is a shortage of $40 billion for the growth path what India 11th and 12th year plan already have in place. So definitely there is a need of international financing, while Indian government is opening up a lot of ECB funding. And there is no limit when it comes to power sector because it's all for the project. Whatever you import equipment, the level of that much money you can take in the form of ECB. If you see the India interest rate growing at 15-16% and the coal pricing going so high, whereas the power pricing is so limited, the chances, the need of money is at a smaller rate of interest. So for private players who have the option of going international funding will definitely look at that. And China is not the only place, even the European market and other markets are also funding ECB. China mostly does when their equipment is purchased. But if you buy any other equipment, then there are other international funding agencies.
I would like to rebut this point here. Arora Sahab, isn't this the case that even the Germans, even the Japanese, or even everybody would push up their bankers along with their equipment? And it is normal. It's not only the Chinese, the others are doing the same.
Yeah, they're doing the same, but there are the differences. One is when we talk about the greenhouse gas effects, we talk about efficiency, we talk about Kyoto Protocol, we talk about Durban. No, that means that we should go for better technologies. Now, if we are going for better technologies, it is also helping us to deplete our resources judicially. Now, we can't be really running out with the coal and then depending on imported coal. So then the people who have invested money in the country, they have invested with a plan that there will be more business here. So we have to look from that angle as well, not only the pricing and benefits given by China and the interest rates in India. Now, I believe that retail business was only fluctuating, but power was stable. But these people have made the power also quite fluctuating.
श्रीवास्तव साहब, इसमें आपका क्या कहना है कि अगर हम आप जैसे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में जा रहे हैं, इवन वर्किंग कैपिटल अवेलेबल नहीं है इस कंट्री में, 12 से 15% के बीच में हमें मिलती है वर्किंग कैपिटल भी, तो ऐसी परिस्थिति में क्या इंडियन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और क्या हमारे देश की जो बोलते हैं ना अर्थव्यवस्था के अंदर ये काम करने में जो क्षमता है हमारी इंडियन कंपनीज की, क्या ये मैच कर पाएगी जहां वो लो कॉस्ट में कैपिटल मिल रहा है इन लोगों?
I think there is no way that we cannot continue with the cost reduction. The cost reduction of the equipment has to be there. We have to be competent and we have to go globally. The moment they start coming to India, we may require to go even in China and convince the other operators. So Until unless we do that we have a competitive product, cost is reduced and go globally, the problem cannot be solved.
चलो बढ़िया है, श्रीवास्तव साहब बोल रहे हैं कि हमें तो चाइना में जाके मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करनी चाहिए। हम इस बात के ऊपर आएंगे with our next episode on renewable energy. Keep watching on Z Business. Inertia, Asia's premier journal on sustainable energy. Let the lights be back. So that was a program that we sent in the month of, I think February. We had this episode on the Z Business. Sorry, that was the end of Jan, 2012, end of Jan 2012. And we have come to a stage where now that 182 gigawatt is 207 gigawatt. Yeah. With this kind of a thought, I want to begin today's discussion. And in fact, Mr. Dar, I think he would fire up this discussion today. So I want him to start first. Please welcome Mr. Ashwini Dar of BHEL.
Ladies and gentlemen, actually I am already a bit apprehensive about my presentation because my mentor and teacher, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, is on the dais, who has literally taught me how to market BHEL products. Anyway, with whatever I have learned, being a student of marketing communication, I always focus on facts and figures. And in some couple of slides, maybe 6, 7, I will just bring about what the country, the mirror of the power sector in front of you. So let's start with the first slide. So as we all know, July 30th and 31st, we suffered 2 outages. Incidentally, 27th of July in this building, rather in the same room, we were discussing what's going to happen when we had the Smart Grid conference. And just 3 days later, there was a total blackout. 680 million people of this planet were absolutely in the dark without electricity. It's a record. It's the highest number. Incidentally, about 150 million of Indians otherwise also live in dark. They have no electricity. For decades, we have invested in power sector, and power generation transmission has consistently lagged demand, leading to rolling blackouts, which has become a norm. To have a 4 to 5 hour shutdown, to have a 4 to 5 hour blackout is considered to be very normal under the current circumstances. Even if you don't have power for almost half a day, it doesn't make any difference. Now, in the next slide, I'm going to share some basic figures as on date. I'm sure Mr. Gopalakrishnan will correct me whenever I'm wrong. And Professor Iyer also is having on a single page on both sides, he had written a lot many figures. So let's check if everything is in order. So let's go for the next slide. Number of Indians who reportedly lost power.
Your free mics.
Okay, okay, that's much better. 680 million, as I said, were the number of people who lost power on 2 days of 30th and 31st. 150 million otherwise also do not have any access to power. Now, the number of Indians and the percent population with no access to electricity is 404 million in the country, which is 33%. That means 1 in every 3 Indian does not know कि बिजली की बत्ती क्या होती है. By comparison, if we see what is the same situation in Brazil and China, it is just 3 and 1. That means just 3% of the Brazilians and 1% of the Chinese do not have access to electricity. So we can imagine where we are. In the industry survey, both the medium-sized manufacturing and the micro-sized manufacturing gave only one constraint in the urban formal sector, which is electricity. So the industry which fuels the growth of the country at the micro level, at the medium level, their basic woe is that they have no electricity. But this the chronic electricity shortage that we have in the country, it has an impact of 0.5% of the nation's economic growth. So when we're talking about 8.5%, you can very well imagine that would have gone to 9% if our electricity, if our power sector would have been behaving. We have an energy shortfall in the last financial year was around 10.3%. And our annual rate of capacity expansion has been just around 3%. Let me tell you, if you go back to the last 3 decades, we had the best growth in the decade 1980 to 90 when the power sector grew by 124%. The next decade saw just a 58% growth in the power sector. The third decade saw 75%. So this is how we are growing, and if we see in these last 3 decades, I mean, on an average, about 6%, 7% is how we are growing. Now, if we have to maintain the the same kind of power situation, that means we have a power deficit of 10 to 12%. If you have to maintain the same thing, the power sector has to grow by 15%. And to fully meet the demand and eliminate the shortfall, we have to grow by 25%. Now, 25% means that every 5 years, 125%. That means every 4 years, we have to double the capacity. This is how it's going. The total power lost in the, now it's called TNC losses. I read somewhere now, earlier TND losses were being named as theft and dacoity losses. So now whatever name we call it is 24% by the governmental circles, but private circles say that it's as high as 35%. Am I right, Professor?
Absolutely. More than that.
Now let's compare this percentage with the other developing nations, Brazil, China, Indonesia, and South Africa. Brazil has 17% losses. China has just 5% losses. Indonesia 10%, and Indonesia, I mean, Indonesia is supposed to be just almost a suburb of India. I mean, if we see in terms of the development, I mean, they have also maintained their losses to only 10%, South Africa to 10%. Now, installed generation capacity, which is coal-based, 56% was what it was in 2011, and it's expected to grow to 67% in the next 5 years. Gopala sir, am I right? India's coal production in 2012 was 402 million tons, which is supposed to grow to 565 million tons in 2017. And the imports, which were 55 million tons in 2012, will grow to 185 million tons in 2017. Now, let me tell you one thing here. We have a funny situation. Coal production is growing at about 4 to 5%. And even with this steady progress in power sector, the power sector is growing at 8%. So there's almost a 4% gap between the coal production growth and the power sector growth. That's why invariably we have power shortages, coal shortages in almost every region of this country. Number of years India's domestic coal reserve are going to last 570 years, so we don't have to worry. I mean, coal is going to stay in this country. Now, let me tell you about this coal. I mean, with 40% ash content, it's almost like a stone. It takes just 450 grams of American coal to produce a unit of power. And it takes 700 grams of Indian coal to produce a unit of power. So you can imagine the kind of coal we are operating with. Now, McKinsey report says that over the next 5 years, $600 billion is going to be the investment. However, Indian government's Department of Policy and Industrial Promotion Working Group is pegging it at $250 billion. Now, $250 billion, if we take as the right figure and not McKinsey report, $250 billion means 14 lakh crores. 14 lakh crores is going to be the investment in the next 5 years. Now, 14 lakh crores definitely is not going to come from the government utilities, because government utilities, as per the latest report, are debt-ridden. 2 lakh crores is their outstanding debt. So definitely it has to come from the private utilities. Now, private utilities, how they are going to play, this we'll see in the coming slides. Now, I'm just telling you, with the bank we started these UMPPs that they will add about 50,000 megawatt. Now, what is the position of the UMPPs as of today? Of these 12 UMPPs, out of which 4 have been, they were handed over to the competitive bidding, and this is, of course, I don't know whether you can see only one, Mudra, that's 1 unit of 800 megawatt which has been commissioned, the rest are either deferred, proposed, under construction. This is the total scenario. Out of 50,000 megawatt, 1 800 megawatt has been commissioned, and that too, as I learned, is lying idle because it's not economically viable coal price, because it's based on imported coal price internationally has gone to $170, and this Mudra unit is not generating power. Gopal, is it right? Okay. Okay. So now with this kind of display that is shared with you, you know, we used to have political emergency in past. Then we also had war emergency when we had 2 wars or 3 wars. I think this year government should declare energy emergency. This is what is going to happen in the country. If nothing is going to take place, the basic raw material, coal, is being ordered by constitutional authorities to be auctioned. Now, what does auction mean? Auction means that it will go to the highest bidder. Wonderful. It will go to the highest bidder and government will become richer. So if it goes to the highest bidder, he is also going to get the output at the highest cost. So where does the welfare measure of the government of India go? So if we are a welfare state and if we have to commercialize the basic natural resource which determine the relevance and the progress of our infrastructure, what is going to happen? Already in the previous slides, I mean, it's a disaster as far as our power sector is concerned. And already I learned that in the 12th plan, about 36,000 megawatt has been put in the back burner because either they have become economically viable or their coal blocks have been taken away. So 36,000 megawatt has been sacrificed by one constitutional authority by making a presumptive assumption, which just 2 weeks back, our Honorable Minister for HRD and Telecom, Mr. Sibal, had written a centerpiece in Times of India. So it was a wonderfully written, so I have just taken some basic slides out of it that will just tell the story of the kind of governance we are facing in this country. You know, he said that we cannot have multiple executives. You know, we have 3 constitutional crises, 3 executives who tend to run this country. CAG policy prescriptions trigger constitutional crisis. Now, I think you people can read it out. So they say when institutions other than executive try their hand at policy making, consequences can be disastrous. What I shared with you. Union government is charged with the responsibility of framing policy and implementing it. Government is accountable to the people through parliament. People's representative in parliament take government to task for faulty policy making and faulty implementation. Government decisions are subject to judicial review if they fall foul of constitutional provisions. Executives, therefore, institutionally accountable. This is to be understood. CAG's function is to audit accounts of Indian Union and the states. CAG is entitled to ensure allocations made are duly applied and all expenditure conforms to the authority that governs it. Auditor is not a policy maker. See, when they questioned why Government of India has not auctioned the coal mines, as per the brief given to CAG by the Constitution of India, they can audit only if government had budgeted that they are going to get this much of revenue from sale of coal blocks. There was nothing like that. So under what brief have they come to this conclusion that Indian exchequer has lost 1.86 lakh crores? CAG cannot decide whether or not a particular resource is to be auctioned or not, as this is not an accounting function. I mean, this is the function of the executive who has to run the welfare state, who has to run the government. Allocation of natural resource is not a budgetary allocation. I mean, I'm very much surprised. We may someday have a CAG report that why government is not auctioning water. Then they will take the price of water. I mean, 10 rupees or 15 rupees a liter. What's the charge being for a mineral water, and then say so many lakh crores Government of India has lost. Okay, here I will come to the issue. When 2G was not auctioned, what happened? We had the highest teledensity in the country. Every third Indian was having either a landline or a cell phone. Then came the 2G scam. Then Government of India was forced to auction 3G. Government of India became richer by 1 lakh crores. But what happened? 3G rollout is yet to start. Since 2010, 3G rollout has not started. Now what happened? Service providers had taken bank loans. Now they cannot service those loans unless there's a rollout. So the whole of telecom industry has become debt-ridden. And they are in such a crisis that I don't know, they may all collapse. The issue is that already one service provider, Reliance, has said that they are going to increase the tariffs, the call rates by 25%. So what does all this lead to? So, I mean, the constitutional authorities' interference in the actions of the executive are having a direct impact on the Aam Aadmi, which is the ordinary Indian citizen. The resources, whether it is the air, water, or the tangible resource in the Mother Earth, have to be decided by Government of India in terms of the welfare measures it has planned for the country. Those welfare measures will be evaluated by the elected body, will be evaluated at the end of the elected period, will be evaluated by the people who elect people. How can institutions who are not accountable to anyone in this country determine whether commercialization of an asset or a resource has to be done or not? This has to be done only by an agency who is accountable and answerable. So this is what the issue is, and we have the basic thing of this telecom sector is in front of the country that when you auction and government becomes rich, the Aam Aadmi becomes poor. CAG's comments cannot be effaced through parliamentary procedure, nor its report can be challenged in court, as its report is not a binding decision. Court's jurisdiction to set aside executive decisions cannot be questioned. However, courts can be questioned if a policy prescription by court direct that a natural resource is dealt in a particular manner. I mean, it was so enlightening for the country when the 5-bench verdict came. No, it's not called a verdict. They say it is an opinion. 5-bench opinion of Supreme Court said that, I mean, it's not always compulsory for the government, for the executive to go through the bidding process. Such policy prescription by court is flawed exercise of jurisdiction is what Mr. Kapil Sibal has said. So this was what I had in mind, and these were the facts and figures. We have an energy emergency in the country. Normal means cannot, in any way bring us to the fundamental progress in the sector. There have to be, certain drastic measures which may not go as per the rule book established by the Constitution of India or as the auditors and the judiciary may think of, because finally it's the poor Indian who has to bear the brunt of non-performance caused by some constitutional agencies and unreasonable interference. Thank you.
May I just say a word in lighter vein? Those youngsters behind must appreciate that our ancestors were very wise. How they formulated these proverbs. Koile ke dalali mein muh kala. You see, it is not reta or mirchi or anything. How could somebody exercise that vision that koile ki dalali mein muh kala? And that is what is the big Colgate scam about.
So, with that very interesting outlook that Ashwini ji has put here, I think I will not take much time. And I said 2014 we will have grid parity of solar. Everybody opposed me. We are exactly having 2014. DuPont is 1 year away from me, 2015, and I will beat them in this whole game. We will have grid parity of solar. 6 rupees solar power. 6 rupees solar power. 100% we are going to get it by 2014. So
That I agree. Yes.
So therefore, you will remember this statement of mine here exactly 10 years from now. And I will not be surprised.
We have already done it. The country has already shaken up. So much of the coal equity is being taken outside.
Right.
I think coal will come.
because when we are taking the equity in the mine,
Right.
the coal is going to come.
Absolutely.
I think we have done a very right job, except that directly importing, because we started importing and the suppliers became more active, the countries became more wise. They said, why not we put the environment charges on the importer? So the coal became, now we don't want to create more mudras. And the way the country operates, I don't think anybody has the courage to take a decision to revise the PPA, which is 25 years, which has got a, I mean, Tata's, I can appreciate their position, but then you have to appreciate the people who have to take a decision. The state governments have signed 25 years PPA based upon the central government's international bidding. And when they were quoting these projects, I was on the committee, I was telling them, you are making a disaster mistake. You are not taking into consideration any increase in the coal price. They said 45 years, there has not been any increase. I said, this is exactly the wrong thing. But they decided to do that.
Absolutely.
And then, okay, Reliance was in a good shape because he didn't start. He can give his bank guarantees and forget about the Krishnapatnam. But Mudra is, and I think we are all here, more than 65 years of age. We will see another 5 years, nothing is going to happen to Mudra. There will be no courage in anybody, whether it's a Congress government or a BJP government, to revise these PPAs. And state governments are not going to do that. So I think the equity which we are taking, I think that's the right step. And what you really say is, we will locate our resources not only in India,
That's right.
anywhere it is worldwide.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the right step we have taken.
Absolutely.
And you also already said, coal is going to be our lifeline.
Absolutely. There's no way out.
There's no way out. And I think that judgment will continue.
Right.
Those who wise people have given this judgment, I think they will live longer. They will see coal will continue to be dominating our energy sector.
That's right.
And in that direction, equity taken in the coal is the right direction. And we will get we will not directly import. You said USA. Okay. I mean, if they throw the coal at $30 or $35, land it in our India, maybe we will take it.
That's right. Because see, if the shale gas is going in, the capacity is going to come after 1 year.
Yes.
Talking about the PPAs. So in the 10th plan, the PPAs were operating. 10th plan. That time, dollar was about 42, 43.
Yeah.
Coal was costing under $100. And because of tariff-based bidding, they could come to with imported coal 220, 210, and with domestic at 120, 130.
That's right.
Now, what's happening? The dollar has gone to 56.
Yeah, but there is
Coal
no
has gone to $70.
You see, the coal price is not passed through in the PPA, no. That was the mistake done by the bidder.
Absolutely. It was a mistake of the bidder.
It was a mistake by the bidder.
Now, private utilities stuck up. Private utilities stuck up because they are not being allowed to change the tariff rates in the long-term PPAs. Now, 14 lakh crores which you have to invest in the 12th plan, from where do you think the private investor will come?
No
Sir
way.
Sahab, I wish we had the courage of China, what we always talk. But the way your country is operating today, who will go to take a decision to change the PPAs? They will say, you have given, you will see CAG report, CAG has got a very big interest in putting zeros. This 1,80,000, what you are saying, the price of coal taken by CAG. It was only to increase these zeros. All newspaper carry 10 zero, uske baad 186. So itna loss ho
So
gaya.
the issue is, should we allow these constitutional agencies who are not accountable to anyone to really go outside the free?
That is only possible if you have a one-party rule. If the one party gets a majority, it will never happen. It will never happen. That's the problem.
So we should, I think the conclusion of this conclave should be that you have to live, that there will be about 30% shortage, you can have power for 24 hours, and be happy that it's not the worst.
And pray that you have a single party government who has the courage to take these decisions.
Yeah, see, I have something very positive for, all this discussion. See, I feel the coalition is going to be the order of the day.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I am a very practical person. So I would say even the coalition in that situation, now we are seeing a scenario where I'll tell you the kind of politics, sometimes Samudra Manthan is good. The kind of politics is today, there is no politician here, but I can tell you, it was the courage of Dr. Manmohan Singh at the end of the day to take on somebody else in the party, which was actually Ahmed Patel, to be very frank. And this has come open in the media. I don't have to hide it. And this conflict of interest was there, and the allocations were basically done on that basis, and he has challenged it. And power center has shifted. Because the weak Manmohan Singh is looking to be a strong Manmohan Singh. He is not bothered about his chair, and that has resulted in very strong decision making. So I think the coalition situation where nobody can come to power easily, and you have to stay back in power together, that you are, I would say, strange friends or strange bedfellows, will result in a very strong governance.
Yeah,
Keep watching my
we have
words.
made certain mistakes which
Keep
we have to
watching my
correct.
words.
I prepared 28 DPRs in one night
Right,
for the developers who wanted to apply for the coal blocks.
right, right.
You will be surprised. We were working up to night 2 o'clock. 28 DPRs were prepared in one night
Right,
and given to the developers who made the application next day.
right, right.
But what we need is, we must rationalize. If we open the door without thinking, we did the open, and that's a mistake we have done. But nobody has gained. But ultimately, what has happened? The country has been shaken.
Yeah,
Power
but
sector has suffered because it's unfortunate for the power sector. We develop for 2 years, something happens, we go again down.
yeah, but basically they're going to reverse. See, they're going to give the pass-through. That's the news I am getting. They will take the decision of giving the pass-through for Mundra. Both the projects will clear, I'm telling you.
That is the decision which is required.
They will give the decision. And I don't think any CAG will come after yesterday's event, where the very strong bench openly said that you have you have crossed completely not only the line, you are not even competent to do this. So the problem was that Manmohan Singh could not make a statement. He could not make a statement publicly because he is also in a constitutional position. He could not demean another constitutional body. But I had heard criticism from Sajdev Saha on the media, but in the media there is a split. People like me have gone on the NDTV criticizing the same media people, you know. Yeah, so it is, we have fought them. We have fought the same media. You know, I was on the same issue on that day on the diesel pricing, like 5 rupees, you know. I tell you that is no increase. In fact, more increase has to be done. How much of subsidy you are giving in the national capital? You know, we are having unintended subsidies. Today, a person buying a diesel car is a rich man. Is he a poor man? A person driving a motorcycle, two-wheeler, using petrol is a poor man. And in fact, media was not accepting my position, to be very frank with you. It doesn't make phase 3 approach over there. You know, diesel ka price बढ़ गए, अब वो भाजी के दाम बढ़ जाएंगे, फलाना हो जाएगा, दिखना हो जाएगा. And look at retail. What a foolishness. Punjab farmers are fighting for FDI in retail. So what is the situation? Are they supporting the farmers, the political parties? It is only gaining more time to get some publicity. And I think in the long run, FDI in retail will also come. But that's a different topic.